Usually when we talk about a mystery, there's a clear, comforting line between the investigator and the audience.
Right, like a safe distance.
Exactly.
Hmm.
I mean, a detective collects physical clues, they build a timeline, and, well, eventually the facts lead to a logical answer.
You'd hope so, yeah.
But what happens when the physical clues just, like, completely vanish into thin air, and the only piece of evidence left behind is broadcast to the entire world?
It changes everything. It really does.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into a modern mystery where the only real clue is a 2.5 minute surveillance video that quite literally broke the internet.
Yeah, it's wild.
We're going to examine the facts of the 2013 Elisa Lam case. We want to sift through the chilling details and really figure out why this specific disappearance continues to, haunt millions of people.
It's a case that fundamentally shifted how we interact with unsolved mysteries, largely because of how crowdsourced sleuthing dynamics just completely took over the narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
But to understand the machine of the internet's obsession, you kind of have to start with the very human baseline of who Elisa actually was.
Okay, let's unpack this because she is such a highly relatable figure to so many of you listening.
She really is.
If you picture January of 2013, Elisa Lam is a 21-year-old Canadian college student. She's on a solo trip exploring the West Coast, and she's just incredibly active online.
Right, on Tumblr.
Yeah, on Tumblr. She's documenting her travels on her blog, uploading photos, and writing these very personal, thoughtful reflections about her life.
What's fascinating here is how her completely ordinary, everyday baseline makes the subsequent events feel so incredibly jarring.
Totally.
I mean, she was doing what so many young people do on a trip of discovery, but this deep dive isn't just about a disappearance. It's really a study of what happens when the mundane experience of travel collides with a deeply unsettling environment.
Right, because she arrives in downtown Los Angeles and she needs a cheap place to stay. So she books a room at the Cecil Hotel, which, to a 21-year-old backpacker from Canada probably just looked like a budget-friendly option in a big city.
Exactly.
But what was she actually walking into?
Well, she was walking into a building with a phenomenally heavy, dark history.
Heavy is putting it mildly.
True. I mean, the Cecil was built in the 1920s, and almost from its inception, it began accumulating just a staggering amount of tragedy.
Yeah.
We're talking about decades of suicides, violent deaths, and a massive number of drug overdoses.
Right.
The concentration of death in this one single location is so dense that locals often just avoided the building entirely.
Yeah.
They consider it literally cursed.
But is that just based on sheer numbers, or was there something more specific driving that kind of reputation?
Oh, far more specific. I mean, the Cecil served as a temporary home for actual serial killers.
Which is just insane to think about.
It is. Richard Ramirez, the notorious Night Stalker, reportedly stayed at the Cecil during his horrific killing spree in the 1980s. Yeah, he would allegedly return to the hotel covered in blood, and in the chaotic environment of the Cecil, apparently no one even batted an eye.
Wait, really? No one noticed?
It was just that kind of place. And years later, Jack Unterweger, an Austrian serial killer, also lived there while committing his crimes.
Wait, Richard Ramirez was actively staying there during the murders? I mean, I knew the hotel had a bad reputation, but I didn't realize it was literally a sanctuary for active serial killers.
Yes, exactly.
That changes the entire context of her checking in for me.
It creates this hypervigilant, oppressive atmosphere. But, Elisa likely knew absolutely none of this.
Right, she's just a tourist.
Exactly. She checked in on January 26th.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, she's doing normal tourist things.
Yeah, going to bookstores, checking out restaurants, that kind of thing.
Right. And she was staying in a shared, sort of hostel-style room inside the hotel.
So why would things unravel so quickly? Because, a lot of people stay in cheap hostels without any incident. But the reports say that after just a few days, the people staying in her shared room started complaining to the hotel staff about her strange behavior.
Yeah, they were pretty unsettled.
She was apparently leaving these, quote, unsettling notes for her roommates on her bed.
Mm-hmm.
It got to the point where the staff actually had to step in and move her out of that shared space into a private room.
Right.
Is this just the normal friction of shared travel accommodations, or is this a massive red flag?
Well, from a psychological perspective, it's a massive red flag.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're staying in a hostel, minor annoyances are common. Someone snoring, someone leaving their bags in the way, right?
Sure.
But for a management to physically relocate a paying guest, The behavior usually has to cross a line into making others feel genuinely unsafe or, deeply uncomfortable.
It takes a lot for management to actually care.
Exactly. So this relocation points to a severe psychological unraveling that beginning to take place.
And that unraveling peaks on January 31st. She stops calling her parents back home in Canada.
Right, which was unusual for her.
Extremely. They panic, they contact the LAPD, and the authorities come out and search the hotel.
And they find absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all. No signs of a struggle, no packed bags indicating she fled in a hurry. Just a complete and total dead end.
Which is incredibly rare, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there is some kind of physical trail.
Like what?
A credit card swipe, a witness who saw someone walk out the front door, maybe a camera catching them on the street.
Right, some kind of footprint.
Exactly. But here, it was as though she just evaporated within the walls of the Cecil.
But if the physical search yielded literally zero clues, what did the police actually have to go on?
They were forced to turn entirely to the digital footprint inside the hotel.
Ah, the video.
Yeah. Specifically, a single piece of surveillance footage from an elevator on the night she vanished.
Right.
Hoping the public could help identify her movements, the LAPD released this video.
And if you have been on the internet at any point in the last decade, you have probably seen this footage.
It's infamous.
It really is. I want to break this down mechanically because it is so vital to understanding the whole thing.
Let's do it.
So Elisa walks into the elevator, and she immediately looks terrified. She walks up to the control panel, and instead of pressing one floor, she presses a whole column of buttons, just rapidly, one after another, straight down the middle row.
It signals a frantic need to move, like she wants the elevator to go anywhere immediately.
But it doesn't move. She steps forward and repeatedly peers out into the hallway.
Just looking around?
Yeah, she looks left, she looks right, checking to see if someone is out there. Then she jumps back inside and presses herself awkwardly into the corner of the elevator, trying to make herself invisible to anyone looking in.
Right.
But here's the crazy part, the anomaly that drives everyone insane. The elevator doors just refuse to close. They stay wide open.
Well, let's look at the mechanics of why that might happen, rather than jumping straight to paranormal conclusions.
Okay, lay it on me.
Elevator doors operate on a few basic mechanisms. They have optical sensors, those laser beams across the threshold that detect movement.
Right.
They also have mechanical weight sensors. If a sensor was faulty, or she was inadvertently breaking the optical beam by, hovering too close to the threshold.
Like when she was looking out.
Exactly. The doors would remain open. Furthermore, in her frantic button mashing, it's highly probable she hit the whole door button.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and in many commercial elevators, that button can keep the doors locked open for up to 2 full minutes.
Okay, that makes logical sense, but the visual of it is still terrifying. Because the doors won't close, her behavior just escalates.
It does.
She steps back out into the hallway, standing just at the edge of the camera's view, and she begins making these incredibly strange, fluid gestures with her hands.
Yes, the gestures.
Her fingers are sort of splayed out, and she's moving her arms as if she's communicating with someone we can't see or maybe reacting to a threat just out of the frame. And then she just stops, walks away down the hall, and disappears from sight forever.
This raises an important question about human psychology and the mechanics of the internet.
How so?
Well, why did this video explode into a global phenomenon? It comes down to something in psychology called the Kuleshov effect.
The Kuleshov effect, like the film editing technique.
Exactly like that. In film, if you show a shot of an actor with a terrified expression and then cut to a shot of a roaring lion, the audience assumes the actor is terrified of the lion.
Right, because of the context.
But if you show that same terrified face and cut to an empty, dark hallway, the human brain cannot process the missing information. We abhor a context vacuum.
Oh, I see.
So the brain forces us to project our own deepest fears into that empty space.
So because the video only shows her reaction but not the stimulus, every person watching it projects their own monster into the hallway.
Yes. Add to that the phenomenon of pareidolia, where the human brain is hardwired to find familiar patterns like faces or figures in random noise.
Oh, right, like seeing shapes in the clouds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had millions of internet sleuths analyzing grainy, compressed video pixels frame by frame, convincing themselves they saw a hidden hand, a shoe, or a shadow out in the hallway.
People were so convinced someone else was there.
They really were. The internet essentially crowdsourced a horror narrative out of visual artifacts.
But while the internet was busy zooming in on pixels, the actual physical resolution to the mystery was unfolding in a horrifyingly practical way inside the hotel.
It really was.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the digital sleuthing is completely undercut by raw, visceral reality.
Right. Weeks after she vanished, guests at the Cecil started complaining to the front desk about the hotel's plumbing.
And the details of these complaints are just grim.
Truly awful.
We are talking about the mechanics of gravity-fed water systems. Most older high-rise hotels pump water up to massive cisterns on the roof, and gravity pushes that water down into the rooms.
Right.
Guests were reporting that the water pressure was terribly low, but worse, the water coming out of the taps was dark-colored.
Oh, yeah.
It had a strange, sweet, but unpleasant taste. And some explicitly described a foul odor when they turned on the shower.
Just imagine the horrifying reality of that.
I really don't want to.
You are a guest, brushing your teeth, bathing, drinking from the tap for days, only to complain to maintenance because of the growing stench.
Ugh, it's a nightmare. So, to fix it, the hotel sends a maintenance worker named Santiago Lopez up to the roof.
Right.
He climbs up to inspect these massive elevated water tanks. He opens the heavy hatch on one of them, looks inside the water, and finds Elisa's body floating inside.
Yeah.
It physically answered where she was, but it completely shattered any logical understanding of how on earth she got there.
Well, let's look at the official ruling impartially.
Okay, let's hear it.
The coroner and the LAPD concluded that Elisa died from accidental drowning.
Right.
The toxicology report showed no illegal drugs, but it did show she had not been taking her prescribed medication for bipolar disorder correctly.
Meaning she was under-medicated?
Yes. The authorities' operating theory was that she suffered a severe manic or psychotic episode, which explains the paranoid behavior in the elevator, found her way to the roof, climbed into the tank, and tragically couldn't get back out.
Okay, I have to push back on this because as a listener, the physical logistics of that official narrative feel deeply flawed.
I know they do.
How do you square a mental health crisis with the architectural barriers of the building? First, the doors leading to the roof were locked and alarmed.
True, technically.
If you push them open, a massive alarm is supposed to sound at the front desk. Second, the water tanks are elevated on platforms. You need a ladder to get up there.
Right.
And third, the hatch on top of the tank is incredibly heavy. So we are supposed to believe that a young woman in a severe psychological crisis bypassed a locked and alarmed door without waking the hotel, navigated a pitch-black roof, scaled a tank, and got inside.
I understand the skepticism. I really do. But you have to look at the mechanical reality of older buildings and the physiological reality of psychological crises.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's take the alarms first. The Cecil was notoriously poorly maintained.
Right, it wasn't exactly a luxury resort.
Exactly. It is incredibly common in older budget hotels for fire doors to be propped open by staff for ventilation, or for rooftop alarms to be completely disabled because they've malfunctioned too many times in the past.
So they might just not have been working.
It is highly plausible that the physical barrier to the roof wasn't functioning at all.
That explains the door, maybe. But what about the physical strength required to get into the tank?
Well, this is where understanding bipolar psychosis is crucial. A severe manic episode is not just a mental state. It triggers a massive physiological response.
Like an adrenaline rush.
Exactly. Adrenaline spikes.
What?
Pain tolerance skyrockets. People in the grip of extreme paranoia or psychosis possess an incredible amount of focused energy and strength because their brain is telling them they're fighting for their life.
Wow, okay.
Scaling a ladder and pulling open a hatch, even a heavy one, is entirely within the physical capabilities of an adult fueled by panic and adrenaline.
But wait, didn't the initial media reports state that the maintenance worker found the hatch completely closed?
Yes.
If she climbed in, how could she pull a heavy metal hatch closed behind her from the inside while treading water? That's the detail that makes everyone scream cover up.
And that is arguably the most damaging piece of misinformation in this entire case.
Really?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how the internet digests true crime, that specific detail fueled years of conspiracy. But it simply wasn't true.
Wait, it wasn't true?
No. Santiago Lopez, the maintenance worker who actually found her, testified under oath that the hatch was open when he found it.
Oh my God.
The initial media reports got it wrong, but the correction never went as viral as the mystery.
Wow. So the internet built a massive conspiracy around a closed hatch, but the reality is it was open the whole time.
Exactly. When an official explanation feels too mundane or messy, people reject it. The public prefers a complex conspiracy over a tragic, chaotic accident.
And nature absolutely abhors a vacuum. Because people rejected the LAPD's logistics, the internet filled that void with intense speculation.
Oh, absolutely.
You had plausible theories, like someone who worked at the hotel following her. You had the frame-by-frame analysis looking for a killer in the footage.
Right.
And then inevitably, because of the Cecil's history, the theories crossed into the paranormal.
Which brings us back to the psychological atmosphere of the Cecil Hotel itself.
Yeah, let's go back there.
Decades of death had created a vibe that employees and visitors found oppressive. Workers refused to go to certain floors at night, claiming they heard footsteps in empty halls.
And just to be perfectly clear for you listening, we are remaining entirely impartial here.
Yes, absolutely.
We're presenting these paranormal claims right alongside the criminal and psychological ones, simply to show how the public tried to process this.
Because it's overwhelming.
It is. When you're faced with a tragedy this bizarre, the human mind reaches for any framework, even curses or ghosts, to make it make sense. It's easier to blame a haunted hotel than to accept that a young woman's brain simply betrayed her in a deadly way.
Sense-making is a powerful human drive. But we must reiterate that despite years of endless online speculation, absolute zero physical evidence has ever proved paranormal involvement or foul play in her death.
None at all. But the theories keep spinning anyway, purely because of that elevator footage.
They do.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at the mechanics of the building, the psychology of paranoia, and the Kuleshov effect of the video. The legacy of the Elisa Lam mystery isn't just about a tragic loss of life.
No, it's bigger than that now.
It's about the fact that years later, millions of people still analyze every second of that tape.
The core fascination is that, unlike fictional horror, this happened to a real, relatable person who vanished into a building famous for its darkness. The terror is watching someone's final known moments as they react to an invisible threat. We desperately want to know what she saw.
Which leaves you with this deeply unsettling thought to mull over regarding the nature of reality and perception. For years, we have all watched that footage, assuming the surveillance camera is capturing the objective truth. We see an empty hallway, so we assume the hallway is safe.
But what if it wasn't?
Exactly. What if the true horror of this mystery isn't about whether there was a physical killer hiding at a frame or a supernatural force in the building?
Right.
What if the ultimate terror is the realization that a human mind can become entirely trapped in a terrifying, inescapable reality that the rest of the world and a surveillance camera simply cannot see?
It's a chilling thought.
It really is. Which reality was the true one in that elevator?